But it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're going to take a look at a budget bargain controller, which potentially, on paper, sounds like it's the frickin' bomb, but it kind of misses out in a few areas. So today we're going to take a look at this controller and see if it's any good. So this is the Gamesir Nova Lite. Now this at the moment is an incredibly cheap joystick, gamepad, whatever you want to call it, controller, which you can pick up from places like AliExpress, Amazon, eBay, all those kinds of places, or weirdly here in the UK you can pick them up at your local Argos. Now funnily enough, Argos are actually beating Amazon's price currently at the time of recording, which is January 2025, almost forgot the year. This is currently £17.99 from Argos. It's around about 25 quid on Amazon, and if you want to maybe pay a little bit less but wait a little bit longer, you can pick these up for as little as around about £10 on AliExpress. Obviously with that comes the caveats of tax and customs charges, all that kind of stuff, and obviously returns, warranty, etc, etc, which potentially you might want to make use of because these are extremely cheap and they're made very cheaply. Now one of the redeeming features of this thing is the fact that we have Hall effect sticks. Now this is actually brilliant. If you've had a joystick, gamepad, controller, whatever you want to call it, for a number of years, you may find, like this slightly older Xbox 360 controller, I think this is, there sometimes is a little bit of drift on there. Generally it's dirt or something in there, but it battles on. But with the new generation of Hall effect sticks, that shouldn't ever be a problem because they are very good at centering themselves and basically the dead zones are great. It just basically works, which is excellent. Now in theory you think this is absolutely perfect. It's around about £10 or maybe £18 if you're buying from a store. It's a nice looking controller. Looks very similar, I would say, to a Xbox One controller. Let me know what you think in the comments. I must admit I've used quite a few controllers and they all tend to be very similar in shape. It's a tried and tested thing. What this actually tries to do is to be basically a one-stop shop. So if you want to use it for a PC, you can use X input. It also supports D input. You can also use it on Android. You can use it on Switch, PlayStation, etc, etc. It has got wireless connectivity on a 2.4 gigahertz dongle. It also has built-in Bluetooth as well. And of course it has USB Type-C, so you can just plug it into your game console or computer of choice and it will appear as a joystick. Also, there is some software which you can download. Now, this is where things get a little bit weird. So with the software, there is a PC app which you can download, which kind of doesn't really work very well, depending if you're using it wired or wirelessly. It's a little bit hit and miss. And also, if you want to do any kind of customization, you need to download an app on your phone, which again is a little bit on the weird side. So you connect it to your phone, you can then do things like firmware updates. And actually, while we're on the subject of firmware updates, currently at the time of recording, there are two kind of main firmwares out. One of them is 4200 and the other one is the 5700. Now the 5700 promises to deliver some kind of fixes to the software. And it kind of does. It makes it better. But unfortunately, when you do use that firmware, you lose the ability to actually connect this controller to your PC via a USB-C cable. You plug it in and it basically doesn't know what it is at all. It's got no idea whatsoever. So if you are getting one of these or you've got one already and you're having weird problems, you're thinking, well, I'm on the latest firmware, everything should be good. Just downgrade it back to the 4200 and it will work. There will be still some weird little bugs and things that don't quite work right, but in general, you should have a pretty good time. Now, another reason why you might not have a pretty good time is the fact that there's no user manual. It basically comes in a box, a very plain box, and the writing on there is absolutely tiny, so you need a magnifying glass to see it, at least I did. And you've got a QR code on the side which takes you to the actual manual. So the manual itself, you kind of need a mobile phone or something to scan the QR code with. I'll put a link in the video description as well, so if you want to take a look, there is a PDF online from Gamesir themselves. You can go through and see it. You do need to magnify it about 700% to actually see what the writing is, but there's actually a ton of features on this. Again, it's a weird thing. It's kind of like they're taking stuff away. So there's no user manual. There's basically no instructions. It's kind of difficult to upgrade the firmware, etc. So yeah, it's a really, really confusing, frustrating product. I kind of want to love it because it does promise to do everything at a ridiculously low price. But it's just little things that it struggles with, like getting the user manual, having to use a QR code, and then basically working out what the buttons do. Now, I guess I know why they haven't color-coded the buttons. That makes sense because this is designed as a multi-console or multi-device joystick, joypad, controller, whatever you want to call it. So they haven't coloured the buttons. I would have liked to have seen them in the Xbox style with those colourings, but again, if you're using it for PlayStation, then that is a different colouring altogether, and for Switch, etc., they're all different. So I kind of get that. Also, for the buttons at the top there, they're basically tiny, and they have got very small imprints on them, so you can kind of work out what they are. Luckily, the one in the middle, which is the power button and also to switch modes, you press that and hold it for a couple of seconds, and that turns the actual sticks and the controller on, and it defaults kind of Xbox mode, as you can see, flashing green. You can change modes by pressing any of the buttons here, and also the button in the middle there for about 2 seconds. You can switch between PlayStation, which goes red, set it to blue, I think is Bluetooth, and yellow is for Android, green is for PC. So yeah, it's pretty clever what it's trying to do. Unfortunately, again, like I said, this is really, really cheap. It doesn't actually feel that cheap. The plastics are actually pretty nice, and there's not really much creak to it or anything. But you do feel with some things they've kind of missed out. Some of the buttons do feel a little bit on the mushy side. If you're looking at kind of pro level controllers, this really isn't what you're looking for. But for just normal gaming and for just a cheap joystick, gamepad, whatever, then yeah, it's pretty decent. There are also some things you can control as well, which again, it's all done by the controller, so it's actually quite difficult. So things like the rumble function. So if you press the M button, which is this one at the bottom, and you press the up arrow, nope, it won't do it because I'm not in the connected mode, so I'm going to have to plug in the dongle. This is what I mean. So depending on what mode you're in, the controller doesn't behave as you'd expect it to. Now, in order to connect to the device, if you're using the wireless adapter, there's a little button on the end there, so you plug it into your PC, and that is basically the pairing button. Press and hold the middle button for a few seconds, and it starts flashing faster. That means it's in pairing mode. I'm going to plug this in now. You can see Windows has detected it. The light's now gone green, so it's now working. So if I press the M button and the down button, so that is rumble off. If you want to increase the rumble, press up again, and there's like 5 levels there. And actually on the highest level, it does have quite a kick to it. It is quite nice in that regard. It's quite nice that you can adjust it. So some joypads, this one particularly, you can't turn the rumble off without disconnecting the motors. So for some people, if you're one of those people that play late at night, you don't want to be rumbling around, then that is pretty cool. Overall, it's an unusual joystick, gamepad, controller. I don't know what I want to call it. It does a bit of everything. The triggers themselves are analog, which is nice, but they're not Hall effect. So these are still relying on the kind of older technology, as are the bumper buttons. Those are just mushy membrane, as are all the other buttons. So it doesn't feel special, but it looks kind of special. It's an unusual thing, and for the price, obviously, you're getting a lot for your money. And if things go wrong, you can press, there's a little button inside there, get a little pin, and push it in, and you can reset it back to its factory defaults, which potentially you might do, because if you press the M button, and I think it's B, it goes into turbo fire mode, and you can choose a key, which would be turbo fire, etc. And yeah, it's like, God, what have I done? It'd be really nice if there was a really good application that you could just plug this in and it would just work on the PC or other devices. I know it's difficult to do because of the technology inside it, but I think that is one of the things which does let this down. Firstly, the things that let it down are the documentation, the poor firmware updates. That's kind of it. If you don't mind the documentation and you don't mind slightly iffy updates and you don't mind it being perfect at everything it does, but you want a gamepad which basically is pretty decent, and for a PC player's perspectives, which is basically what I'm doing, playing things like Rocket League, absolutely flawless, no problems at all, either wired or wireless. Now I have seen that there have been other people that reported that the 2.4 gigahertz dongle is extremely unreliable. Now in my particular instance, I haven't found that. I found it to be pretty good. It does though have quite a slow response time on the 2.4 gigahertz, and people have actually said that if you use it in the Bluetooth mode actually is faster, which normally it's the other way around. Normally you find Bluetooth, because the way Bluetooth works, it's normally a little bit slower in terms of response, but use the 2.4 gigahertz to get a better response. Obviously, yeah, for some reason they've cheaped out again on the actual adapter, and it doesn't work particularly well. Again, in my experience, I haven't really noticed any lag or latency. It's been absolutely fine. Again, playing Rocket League, it did really well and actually ended up winning the match, so that's quite unusual for me anyway. And if you're into other things such as maybe a flight simulator, Microsoft Flight, obviously when you're flying an aircraft, you don't really need those kind of razor sharp responses, but you do need them to be accurate. And I found with those Hall effect sticks, it's been really good. And if you are thinking of playing sort of flight simulators or anything which involves a degree of sensitivity and for your sticks not to drift like crazy, I honestly do think this is worth a look. Just do bear in mind when you go to the website or you read through the blurb that you don't get too hyped thinking, wow, this does absolutely everything, and it's got USB-C, it's also got a reasonable battery life, 600 milliamp hour battery, so it's probably going to last you, I don't know, maybe 10, maybe 12 hours before needing a recharge. Out of interest, you can't really tell what charge level is in the battery, other than when it starts going flat, the light in the middle starts flashing red. So, but then it does that when you're in turbo mode, so you kind of don't know where you're at. Again, it doesn't have a particularly good application for it, which makes it really, really frustrating. I really, really want to recommend this. And for the money, again, you're kind of taking your chances. I think it's worth the money if you're buying it from AliExpress or you get it on a deal. When it's kind of to like 25, 30 pounds, I think there are better options out there, of which no doubt you'll be suggesting in that comments section below. But overall, I'm gutted because I paid £29.99 just before Christmas for this from Amazon, so I am very tempted to just return it and buy another one from AliExpress for like 10 quid or something in whatever the customs charges are. At that sort of money, I'll be really happy, and to have this as possibly a backup controller if my trusty old Xbox One dies, which I honestly don't think it is because it's been going for nearly 20 years as it is. But yeah, this has got some level of accuracy to it. So it's kind of nice, and I think it looks really nice as well. It looks kind of nice on your desk setup if you have it on a stand. And also I didn't mention as well, it does come with its own protective case, of which the dongle, wherever it is, it's in the PC, lives inside. You'll see some B-roll footage of that. But I think it's pretty handy if you put that in there, clasp it down, you can put it into your kind of rucksack, your bag or whatever, and take it to a friend's house if you're playing games on a console or whatever via Bluetooth, etc, etc. I think it's a pretty nice package. It's just a shame it wasn't executed particularly well. I think that is the thing with some of these cheaper Chinese mass-produced things. Yeah, they look great on paper, they sound great in specs, but the actual execution sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired. So anyway, there you go. There are my rambling thoughts on the Gamesir Nova Lite. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and hopefully it's given you some information about whether or not you should buy one, because these are being kind of promoted everywhere. So I just wanted to make a quick video, although it's not turned out to be very quick, explaining some of my frustrations with it, some of the things I really like about it, and the options of what you can do in terms of pricing. Of course, there will be affiliated links in the video description, so if you want to check those out, I'll put the AliExpress ones in there as well, so you can see what the cheaper prices are. But yeah, I think it's worth a look, just temper your expectations. So on that bombshell, I think that's going to wrap this video up. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and the chime notification. That'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.